country because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Wow, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Greetings everyone and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. It is the middle of June. We are done with Father's Day. Happy birthday all happy Father's Day, belated happy belated Father's Day to all of the fathers in America. Because Father's Day differs around the world. So yeah, it wasn't in my location, for instance. But hey, it is what it is. So, gentlemen, how are you doing? Because I am joined by Mr. Paul Chato, my fellow Norseman from across the pond.
I'm doing very well. I had a great time Friday. My birthday present arrived. I got to fly. My wife Ramona gave me I told you.
Yeah, we saw the video. We were so pleasantly surprised that Ramona would let you come and play with us afterwards.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Oh, that's right. Of course.
Yeah.
So she let me come briefly on Friday to join you guys. But then I edited the video together and just had a great time. It was really nice. It was a good experience. And number one, I published it on Sunday, not realizing it was Father's Day, and so everyone kind of jumped on, oh yeah, it's a great Father's Day thing. No, I never thought of that. I also didn't realize that this year would have been my dad's 100th birthday. So
all right.
So I, taking his flight jacket up to up in a World War II plane was great. I didn't make too many technical errors because on YouTube that's the first thing that the gang comes after you. Right. That's what's wonderful.
I imagine that the World War II plane community is a small and a nitpicky one. So yeah, I can kind of see that happening.
Well, I published an appalling news today about Spokane, Washington, but I've been hammered now. It's Spokane. So that's unbelievably important. It's not Spokane, it's Spokane. I had no idea. I've never been there. Did you know that culture?
No, I've been saying it wrong. And when I was in Washington, I said it wrong plenty. And people that were in Washington were also saying it wrong. So whatever.
So you're calling it Spokane, right?
Yeah. I really, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It apparently matters to the people who are commenting on my channel.
Can you find it on a map? Probably. So I think we're okay.
Yeah. So I love. That's the thing I love about social media. Anyway, hello, culture.
Well,
indeed.
hello.
Also joining us from slightly more south on the map is Culture Casino.
A little bit warmer, let's say. I'm enjoying the desert Southwest, and the 110 degrees is going to be today, but I also feel better, so my health is improved. Got several things to take care of today. Very excited to be here, and you know what? I'm actually kind of I'm happy for a company that I think is going to take the wrong lesson out of a wonderful weekend. And I know we're going to talk about that shortly, but I'm also happy for our audience because they seem to be responding to us being here on a Monday. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Of course, we're going to take the wrong lesson. Of course.
Yeah, we'll get into that momentarily. But yeah, very glad to see that you are feeling better, Culture. For those that do not remember, Cultured Casino wasn't here so much last week because he was sick as a dog or a chicken, which I understand is the latest rage.
Yes.
Whatever the case may be,
Yes.
whatever you had was through the means of the internet passed on to Tom, who is a little bit under the weather today, which is why he is not here. Maybe he'll show up later, depending on how he feels. But we will carry the show on anyway, and we'll see who else shows up as we move along here. Well, of course, we have a lot to talk about today. We have a couple of super chats from you guys watching. We have a great crowd here as usual. We have Jaloga is here, Skibo is here, Curtis Shaw is here, T-Button Martin is here, ringing that wrench, Shadow Storyteller is here, JP is here, Tim Hayes is here, so glad to see you here, Matthew W is here, the Wolf from Heart is here, and so many others. Yeah, we even have someone representing Spokane or Spokane or however you pronounce it. I'm not even going to get into that.
I can speak too. All right, calm down.
Yeah, and we have spoken about Spokane already, so that's
nice
for the time being. But
Mr. Segway,
indeed, let's segue into some of these super chats. We have our good friend and investigative journalist, for he is indeed just that, Robert Montoya, sending us $9.99, saying, wow. When Iger has great news, investigative reporter James O'Keefe says, not so fast.
That's right.
The Disney tapes are coming June 20th. Any speculation on what James has?
When Robert sent me this yesterday, I was like immediately all smiles, because this is not going to be good for Disney. I mean, he's gonna. My guess is he's gonna have everything from the inside of just how DEI captured the company is, all of the political garbage that goes on inside that makes them a very hampered creative company, because they basically are hampered. Their creativity is compromised by these politics. I think a lot of that is going to come to the public light, and if James says he's got something. When it comes to this stuff, I think he's got something. I'm looking forward to it. So what great news, right?
Yeah.
Great news.
Yeah. James O'Keefe has one hell of a track record of truly mind-blowing stuff that is not picked up in the mainstream media, which is a tragedy. And that was one of the things that convinced me that, holy shit, all the stuff I keep hearing about how the media is the enemies of the people, when they don't cover stuff like this, I'm not going to say they are, but you can certainly be forgiven for asking that question out loud.
But it's also how they cover stuff.
Indeed.
And sometimes you dig into it and you realize, wait a second, it's not completely as they've described it. They've actually left out some really salient points, and that's infuriating.
It is indeed, yeah. For news, absolutely check out James O'Keefe. I will be waiting for the Disney tapes with bated breath. And I mean, it could be anything. It could be related to the Chapek fighting. It could be related to Reedy Creek. It could be related to Gina Carano. It could be related to any kind of fraud that Iger could stand RICO charges for. I mean, Disney is practically a mafia corporation with all the stuff that we've heard. So, I mean, it's hopeless to guess, but I guess it could be literally anything. It could be anything from trafficking to visitations to a certain island. Because if you just think of all the stories, all the stuff that Disney has been associated with directly or indirectly, there's literally no limits. But until we find out, check out some other excellent journalism in the Texas scorecard, whether you are
I think it would be really interesting to find out that both Inside Out 2, as well as Wolverine and Deadpool, were both greenlit by Chapek.
I think you're right. I think that he is the one that greenlit Deadpool and Wolverine.
That for sure.
He we know
Yeah.
for certain. And you know what? Timing-wise, he very well could have been the one that greenlit this movie as well. I don't know that for certain. The only movie I know 100% positive was greenlit by
But
Chato.
I'm going to say that as part of my lie.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, that in terms of timing, you don't have to say it's a lie. You can
It's a
hide behind
possibility.
educated guess
Yeah.
based on the timing that it or how long it takes before a movie is greenlit until it actually hits the screen. You can make an educated guess that this must have been greenlit under the Chapek regime, and
That'd be funny.
until otherwise is proven, until we have something conclusively that says no, this was an Iger decision, you are well justified in making that assumption because the timing lines up here.
It does. That's why I mentioned it. I thought, boy,
that would be kind of like hilarious. I mean, they frog marched out the man that gave them, with this one, the first hit they've had in 5 years, and with Deadpool is going to be the second one. But you know what? Let's not delay any further. Let's actually jump straight back into that. We'll get back to the rest of the super chats later here. But I want to follow up on this one. Robert Montoya has a follow-up saying, thankfully, we have Midnight's Edge and others where we can get informed analysis on O'Keefe's findings. I'm staying tuned. How is Disney reacting right now? Well, in terms of O'Keefe, I think that's a worry for another day. They'll deal with that on the 20th and the 21st. Right now, they are doing the happy dance over this weekend's box office. Cultured, do you have the box office numbers for this weekend?
Well, of course I do, and let me say, they have something that they can certainly celebrate, and it's been a long time. It's been 5 long years in 4,400 theaters. At this point in time, they have a winner on their hands. They earned $34,910 per theater, which is an awful lot in an opening weekend. We haven't seen numbers like this in forever. A gross of $155,000 domestic. Wow, what a weekend. And look, we dive down into the numbers here, and you look at the worldwide global box office, and you go, holy cow, what
just
a record.
Short of 300 million.
Yeah, and what was the last film that you remember that did that much money? You guys remember?
Barbie.
It's Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
For Disney,
yeah.
You have to get back to that.
Yeah, I don't think Disney's had an opener this big in a very long time.
Oh.
Can you guys, anybody in the audience, somebody, this is group participation here. When was the last time they had something that was good?
The Doctor Strange had a very good opening.
All right, but now this is also an animated classic. I mean, technically, this is in the top 5 of 2024 movies at domestic box office. So it bringing in 155 million on an opening weekend. In all-time domestic box office, it's already on the charts at 73, but these numbers are going to continue to climb. And you look at this, and it didn't have much fall off over the weekend. The previews certainly helped it out at 13 million. That's a big preview number compared to what we've been seeing lately in the $5 to $6 million range. So they doubled up there. $62 million with Thursday, Friday. So people were waiting on this movie.
Well,
right?
Is that, I can't see because it's in red, but is that under 20%?
Yeah, 18%
drop.
Yeah,
that's hit range. If it's under 20%, then that is mega hit range.
Yeah. And now the question is, and this is the truth with almost every single major film that is successful with legs, does this have staying power? Are people going to go see it more than once? Are you going to go take your kids to see this again? Or are we in an economy that makes it real difficult for that to happen? I think that's the bigger question. But this number here, domestic opening box office of $155 million. That's bonkers. It's very, very impressive. But what I thought was interesting is that Bad Boys fell off, but not very much either.
Oh, look at
This is
that.
a very good hold.
Yeah. And it's not in the same number of theaters. It still had a good per theater average at 8.6 $8,600, I should say. That's pretty decent with a 40% fall off. It's nowhere close to the dreaded 50% fall off. And I don't think it's got legs, but at 113 million domestic, it's doing okay. I don't think it cost all that much money, and it might have enough in it to have a profitable film. And then in third place is a film that I think is already long in a tooth at 6 weeks, with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at 5.2 million. So huge fall off. This tells me everybody went to see one movie this weekend. It was Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think, but that's
Well,
that.
all I can say is that they're going to hit it out of the park with their DVD sales. Wait a second, there are no DVD sales.
Well,
Oops, it's going to Disney Plus where it will earn exactly nothing. So they better appreciate the box office it's getting right now. I have to say, though, yeah, these are very good numbers. And this movie is doing far better than I thought it was going to do. So kudos to that. I obviously haven't seen the movie myself because I happen to be in, shall we say, the outer rim of Europe, where I haven't had the opportunity to see this. But I can only imagine that the movie must be fairly decent, that there can't be anything too overtly quote-unquote woke in it, because if there was, we would have heard and it wouldn't have these numbers. If there were, it would have had like decent Thursday, and then it would have fallen off more and more and more on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's not what we're seeing here. So I can
No.
only imagine that the movie must be fairly decent, or that the public at large appreciates it.
Well, and I think that we've seen from people that we trust in our sphere, right, their reviews about this, who say that there really isn't that much in it that anybody could find offensive. And that despite, early concerns about anxiety, we probably had more anxiety about that character than needed to be given, because it seems like that was utilized rather well. Some of the people saying that, the character having a panic attack actually will have a lot of people relating to that at a certain point in the film. So there's a lot here that it sounds like they got right. They were able to sidestep a lot of things that could have certainly been missteps when it came to leaning into some of the stuff. And it seems to demonstrate, according to a lot of reviewers, a healthy understanding of growing up in your teenage years and all the angst and things that you deal with in that period of time. So I think listening to others and getting an opportunity to see this for myself here in the next few days, I'm going to do a review and give people my thoughts, untainted and untethered from any other preconception or other people's opinion. And like I said, I'm actually looking forward to seeing a film for a change, which I was actually dreading this one. I don't know about you, Paul.
Well, I wasn't dreading it. The first thing that I kind of look at when I'm thinking or reading about a high concept product is just how big is how dire are the consequences, and I call that the consequence vector, in that Disney has been putting out movies where we don't really care about the story or the danger that the main characters have been in. And a danger I'm using, just as colloquially.
Yeah.
And so
facing adversity.
Yeah, adversity. So the thing is, no one will disagree that a person going through puberty, whether it's male or female, is a giant change in their life. It is fraught with adversity, and that's got a huge vector. I mean, you have to really screw it up badly to not get any kind of story out of that is meaningful to people, that gets them in the feels. Which I thought, if they executed this properly, the whole notion of puberty is a fantastic subject. We all all went through it, most of us, unless we're on puberty blockers. So
Yeah,
I
so
thought that this was going to be good based on whether they could execute it or not. Looks like they did.
yeah, it looks so based on the numbers at least. We'll see how it holds up. How it holds up in the weeks to come.
I did have a concern over the characterization of anxiety. It looked very Fraggle Rock and out of place from the other characterizations, but I guess it was not. I mean, I'm just admitting to something that I was concerned about, but it looks like it's not a concern.
Well, it doesn't. It isn't. It isn't always a concern if something looks a little bit out of place. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't really see Star Wars. I only saw it when I was like pretty much an adult. I just saw like bits and pieces, and
make me feel old.
I thought that Yoda looked like out of place. He looked like a refugee from Fraggle Rock, but hey, it kind of worked, didn't it?
Yeah, it's true. You're right.
So yeah, another thing that stands out to me on the box office here, if you could just look down a little bit, is Fuiosa, now sunk down to 7th, and this is the big thing that stands out, lost 1,110 theaters. So yeah, Tom has already heard that this thing right here, it's about to drop on streaming very, very soon, which is going to be something that they don't announce. Just suddenly it's there. Just like the Fall Guy. This seems much more likely now, doesn't it? With this kind of brutal cut in theaters.
Well,
which
yeah,
I don't blame them for.
Plus the overall earnings here. I mean, let's face it, 160 million is not going to make the bacon. It's not even. They're not even going to earn back half of the production budget. So that's a real problem. You know, they've got a lot of money tied up in the future of this. I don't think they're going to be able to spend it. I don't think they're going to be able to spend their way back into making this successful in the future, this Mad Max saga idea that they had. It really just didn't hit with audiences. Its decline here over the weekend over weekend has been more than noticeable. It fell into 7th place in its 4th weekend. First of all, there's not enough movies out there that are, worth seeing. Second, this wasn't one of the movies worth seeing according to the audience, and the overall gross, domestically has basically proven that this isn't a reliable franchise for the future. The theater averages are continuing to drop, $576 per theater that it was left in out of 1,800 theaters, as you mentioned, Andre.
Yeah.
There's no pent up demand to go and see this again, or even for the first time.
Do you think that we've got a problem when someone like Chris Hemsworth can't bring an audience in?
I don't. First of all, you'd have to say that he is a box office draw. On his own, outside of Thor, the second Thor movie didn't do very well. It wasn't very good. The third film, Ragnarok, people enjoyed, but it was also, Thor plus Hulk.
I liked it. I enjoyed
Ragnarok. I loved it.
But that's I think that was very good compared to the second movie. The second movie was just terrible, but you'd have to argue, find a way to tell me that anything else that he's been in has been a success. I mean, he was in Ghostbusters 2016, Paul. How did that work out?
Brilliantly.
Yeah.
It was actually the funniest thing in it.
Right, but that's not the point. It's just like I'm not sure he's the box office draw we would hope for. Now, go ahead.
I'm just trying to track who out there can open a movie. Like I'm finding this fascinating. It's like there's nobody.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to whether or not something's amazing, and Inside Out, good voice cast and everything else, and that definitely opened, and it didn't rely on anybody physically being present. Right. Same thing with a lot of things. I mean, for as good as Margot Robbie is, I don't think the success of Barbie was driven by Margot Robbie.
I agree with you.
Wasn't.
She doesn't open movies. She might now.
I still don't think so, but Ryan Gosling was in that film, and he comes along and he does Fall Guy. Is it
Does
his
not
fault
think
that didn't open well? No. I mean, that had Emily Blunt in it, and
Yep.
is does she pull numbers? No. Does Anna Taylor-Joy pull numbers? No. So we have to be honest about it now. There are no longer movie stars. There's maybe 2 or 3 left, and I'm using the word left there very carefully. But that's it. I don't think you're going to have stars opening films anymore, because I don't think there's stars anymore.
You're right, and it hasn't been that way for a long time, because of course you have stars, but you have more limited stars in a certain genre where they can open movies in that particular genre for a particular audience. Case in point, Jason Statham. His movies are a category of his own, and he's a star of Jason Statham movies. Sometimes others can come along and do some excellent Jason Statham movies, like, for instance, Keanu Reeves. He can do fantastic Jason Statham movies when they're called John Wick. They are Jason Statham movies. So that kind of works. But beyond that, for like the type of star that we had back in the 90s, where everyone would go to see because it was a vehicle for that particular star, and 4 quadrants of audience would go, like your Schwarzenegger or Stallone and stuff. That's a thing of the past. The last one, the true last action hero, is Tom Cruise, and even his star is fading, as seen with the Mission Impossible movies. And how big can he open a movie outside of Mission Impossible or Top Gun? That's a different matter. So really, it's the franchise and the IP that's the new star, and the star in it less so. I mean, Hollywood sometimes has like this problem that they think, oh wow, this individual who lucked out to be in this IP-driven feature is now a star. And if we put this person that was fantastic in this IP in a different vehicle all about them, they're going to sell tickets to. That doesn't necessarily compute. And that's what we're seeing. So yeah, Hollywood has to be really, really careful about which actors they pair with which roles, and how much money they invest in those actors when they're separated from the IPs where they are huge stars, because they're the face of the IP. And also the actors probably shouldn't go and make complete asses out of themselves in public outside of the context of the movie.
That gets us back to a bigger conversation, because Disney desperately needs a return to form with Marvel. The easiest way to do that would be with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark.
Yep,
that would be the easiest. That'd be the easiest way back.
Well, I disagree with that. You know why?
That's
I disagree?
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. They already tried that with Chris Hemsworth in Thor 4. And they had the wrong people making it, and all it did was, it didn't save Marvel, it ruined Thor. And I think you bring back Robert Downey Jr. right now in a Kevin Feige feature made by the same brain thrust that has been there and ruining Marvel ever since Phase 4 onwards, with no change there, just the same schmucks behind the scenes. All that's going to do, you're going to ruin Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. You're going to save Marvel. You're going to bring him down in the mud as well, unless you have a fantastic movie. And what do we see from Marvel right now? The only ones capable of doing a fantastic Marvel movie, by the looks of it, are people that come from outside the Marvel ecosystem. That was the case with Spider-Man No Way Home. That was Sony that brought in talented people, and it was such a rush job that Marvel didn't have time to occupy it. Same thing with the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine. That's Ryan Reynolds and his people working with Kevin Feige that, by all accounts, hopefully have knocked it out of the park there. But Kevin Feige and his choice of people is just one string of disasters. And if Kevin Feige's people were to get back Robert Downey Jr. this day and age, is not going to do anything than pull another Thor Love and Thunder or another Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where they basically ruin one of their own stars because they don't have the talent to make them shine. That's what I think.
Yeah, so I mean, culture isn't wrong though, Andre. I mean, on the face of it, I think...
Yeah, on the face of it, but that's only half the equation.
No. And the truth is, the regime is still there. So, which is the point you're making. So, you know,
I think
so the chances of a Robert Downey Jr. return is spoiled by the incompetence that exists. So your supposition is that they're not going to be able to pull it off. I would see another Chris Hemsworth Thor if they could return it to form.
Well, they'd have to go back to either the first film or a slightly less over-the-top third film without an auteur director in charge of it.
Because I would love to see another Shakespearean Thor, like in Kenneth Branagh's one. I thought that was really refreshing, going total Shakespeare on it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was like, I think you can have an auteur director, but you have to have an auteur director whose sensibilities are a match with the property. Well, and then you have to just keep them in line and make sure that they don't go too far out of bounds, because that's when magic happens.
Yeah, but I think you're just saying that it just can't be Taika Waititi.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at this point, it can't. No.
Anyway, regardless, look, I see it this way, and I've been seeing a lot of things this way. It's got to be a combination of things. You were bringing up the point that Jason Statham movies are a vehicle unto itself, and you're right. They're basically 80s action movies, and they have a genre in and of themselves. They have actors that do them well, and that's a vehicle that everybody can get behind. I would say that there's that for everything. The problem is that we don't have studio heads that acknowledge that you're going to have to make breakfast cereal movies for a long time now, to in between your tent poles, that people are going to go and consume, because you aren't able to offer them prime rib as often as the audience would like, and you used to be able to do it, and you used to have the stars that could do it. Bless you, Paul.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, hit the mute button.
You're fine. But they used to have the ability to give you prime rib all the time. But the problem is they got rid of anybody who could help deliver the prime rib, and social media got rid of the movie star. Sorry, that's what happened. So,
and I'm saying, and I agree with you. We need more Little Miss Sunshines.
Yeah.
High quality, inexpensive movies that highlight really good actors like Alan Arkin.
Yeah.
And that are just a joy to watch in between the tent poles. I mean, as we've discussed before, they went all tent pole and they ignored the in-betweeners.
And you know, they're the only place that you're getting a steady diet of breakfast cereals in the horror genre.
Yes.
You know, and
I'm not a consumer of that.
Which is I love horror movies, but that's a different conversation. Sure. But that's where we're getting breakfast cereal. Like, you know, we're getting consistently decent chunks of breakfast in the horror genre, because they make money. They make money. They don't cost anything.
I mean, they're also lazy. They're not.
I would argue that if you go back and you watch the Golden Globus, Canon films, any of the stuff from the 80s action genre stuff, those are lazy, but they're fun.
Yeah.
It's breakfast.
Yep.
That's the thing. All it has to do, it has to keep the audience entertained. It doesn't have to.
No, correct.
If it can do that while being lazy, so you can actually pump out quite a few and give the audience a good time getting back into theaters, what's the harm? As long as you actually produce something good. I mean, you can make the argument that Meg 2 was lazy. It was hella fun though.
I had a lot of fun at that movie. I talked very positively about it, despite it being just absolute garbage. But it was a lot of fun.
I know, but it was a lot of fun. It was lazy, but it was fun. A couple of super chats on this before we move on. I think this is in reference to Inside Out. Chaos Sonic says for $5. I say that Park Place actually helped it by the early review showing it is not woke. Well, you know what? Good. I am glad. That a movie that actually does give the audience a good time is rewarded by the audience. Also, it should be a boost for Hollywood to see that, you know what, you can actually still have a massive opening weekend like they used to have in the golden days of a few years in the past, if they just deliver the right movie. Now they just have to figure out what the right movie is. Let's see how well they manage to figure that out. That's different. And
consider this, Andre, and I know you get the same inquiries that most of us do. I think even Paul does. Is people are saying, "Well, is it woke?" That's the thing.
The first question. First question I get always.
And when you got WDW Pro and Lorena and all these people who saw the film early coming out and saying this isn't woke, film threat. When you hear people that you value their opinion saying that it's not woke, there's a little weird situation here and there, but that's the first question you're going to hear. Is it woke? Does it have this modernity garbage tied to it? Can you go through and put all the check boxes in place, to make sure that it's going to qualify for an Oscar or whatever? Now, in the case of Inside Out, that's not possible. But for anything else that we see, that's the question you get asked. And when you have a preemptive strike by somebody like Pro or anybody else who did an early review on it, be it Film Threat or whoever. And they say there's none of that garbage in it. Well, that's a win right there. The win, the lesson. This is the thing I keep trying to introduce into this conversation. The lesson that Disney won't learn is that get away from the divisive garbage that you've been pushing for the last 5 years, and you make money again.
I have a question.
Yeah,
go for it.
Is this going to save Pixar?
It might save Pete Docter's job.
Because we've heard rumors that Pixar is going to be absorbed by Disney, and that's it, they're done.
Disney Animation Studios. I don't think those were rumors. I think those were likely possibilities.
Yeah.
Do I think that this could have staved that off? Quite possibly. There are still rumors of some things being done internally at Pixar for future projects. So until I start hearing that those are being switched up or pushed over to a different element, then I'm going to say that they're still going to stick around. But I think this really did help. The problem is what's Bob's takeaway here? What's Pete's takeaway here? Did they really do as Andre has suggested in videos? Is Disney really trying to pivot? At this, I don't know, Andre, that's a question I would direct at you. Is this really an attempt to pivot towards something different?
Don't think that this is an attempt to pivot, because this movie would have came out too soon for that to be the place. For the movie which are attempting to pivot, we're not going to see until next year after that.
Yeah, and
this is too soon. I think that this movie was always going to be what it is right now. And if Paul is correct in your educated guess that this indeed was greenlit by Mr. Chapek,
right,
that would have been a requirement. That it would have been a fairly centrist movie. Otherwise, he wouldn't have greenlit it.
And that goes back to DMED, right? The different way of funding and keep holding people accountable for production costs and production stories and all this other stuff, right? That was what Chapek was instituting with his friend. I can't remember his name. Anyway, the two of them were going at it from like, we're going to hold you accountable as a studio director, as a studio boss. And you have to do this with this, and this money can be here, and you can't have this and all of that, or you won't get this money. You're also on the hook if it fails. So I think this is a product of that, as much as it's a product of
Kareem Daniel.
Yeah, Kareem. Yeah, thank you. Kareem Daniel was the other guy that was in charge of that. By the way, who did they get rid of almost immediately after
Kareem
took over? Yeah.
Well, the creatives at Disney, I understand, hated the
being accountable.
Being made accountable, getting shorter contracts, or basically just being accountable, because that's what happened.
They reacted badly to this new chain of command.
Yeah, indeed. They're the aristocracy. So, how dare a pleb like Kareem Daniel tell them what's going to be better for business?
The one challenge for Pixar is that this is not new IP. And, this is piggybacks off of an existing movie, and everything that they've tried has failed.
Failed.
That's really the bigger concern.
Yeah.
And even, the one movie they did use the previous IP of, Lightyear, which, was on top of the hugely unsuccessful Toy Story franchise. And we all know what happened to that. That's a joke. I'm being sarcastic there.
Oh, I was going to say, well, the last Toy Story wasn't spectacular, but come on, Paul.
No, I'm talking about Lightyear.
Oh, no, Lightyear was god awful. Oh my god.
No, but that's piggybacking on previous IP.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so that was a massive failure. So they engineered that 100% to be woke. Die.
Yeah. That was a lesbian movie, so yeah.
That's right. Witch beings.
Yeah. It was the Acolyte before the Acolyte was the Acolyte.
Right.
With butt babies and everything.
Yep. And the action figures did not include turkey basters, which I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Absolutely. Very shame on Mattel or on Hasbro for screwing that up. Yeah. Yes. All those people that lost their jobs because their Disney merch didn't sell enough, and now we know why. So yeah.
You guys are going to hell. It's funny.
and so we have to be careful what kind of tea leaves Inside Out 2 presents. But having been in the business, one of the things you have to understand.
Wait. Were you somehow involved in network television or film production? Really?
I'm only the former network. But what you have to understand, especially in Hollywood,
emphasis on former.
Former. This is why I'm former. I'm hanging out with you guys. That everyone will take whatever success anything generates and bathe in it and tell everybody they were the ones responsible. Like it is so insane when something blows up and the number of people who want to take credit for the success of it is so. And people who had, one, either no involvement, or two, actually turns out to had to have had a negative involvement that people kind of told them to fuck off, but then they're going to take credit for it anyway, right? I mean, this is Hollywood. This is the kind of nonsense that happens there. So I'm looking for the number of people who are going to come out of the woodwork. That's the thing that we need to be watching for.
Yeah. All the people that try to claim, oh, I did this and that on this movie. Yeah, funny how that works.
Yep.
I mean, this is Kathleen Kennedy's big claim to fame, right? She was in the background cooking coffee while Steven Spielberg and George Lucas made all of their best movies. And because of that, she's the greatest producer of all time.
Well, I mean, reportedly she wasn't doing a very good job with the coffee.
No, it was completely undrinkable.
I mean, Spielberg did not exactly read her off as like the most important part of any production. I mean, he may have had a few sharp things to say that were unflattering. We've got to find those clips again and put them out there in the world, because people really need to understand just how poor Kathy was at her jobs.
Well, I believe the proof of that is in the pudding right now and has been for the past decade.
But for the public in general, and for theaters in general, and for movie going in general, success is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. But gentlemen, we have success on the SuperChat side.
Yes, let's
move on with that a little bit, because I'm sure some are impatiently waiting for theirs. Gracie says for $1.99, could be like Captain Marvel. Disney buys 2 tickets to distract. Well, here's the thing. Just like with New York Times bestsellers, like stuff like that. I mean, there's so much stuff going on with what it takes to get books to be on New York Times bestsellers list. You can, for instance, look at the massive bestseller that is Battlefield Earth from L. Ron Hubbard, and look at some of the tactics Scientology employed to get it there. And it's not a stretch that something like that may occur on the ticket side as well. That being said, I would not credit this success to that, because it's just too many people, and there have been too many massive flops that Disney really needed to be hits in the near past for this particular accusation to have much merit. I do not think that Disney themselves made this the hit that it is. I think this really is a hit with the audience, which isn't discounting that maybe they pushed a little bit along the way, but I don't think it would have made significant difference. What say you, gentlemen? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Moving on. Backing Proton says for $5, considering the writer, director, and her silly comments, wondering how IO2 managed to be even halfway decent from the reviews. Surely an isolated thing. Is this in reference to Inside Out, or
Oh,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Inside Out too. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
IO too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, yes. Well, here's the
I
thing.
haven't heard her silly
Even if the
comment.
people behind the scenes may not be very camera friendly, or say stupid things, or are encouraged to say stupid things by the marketing, if the movie works, then the movie works, even if the marketing kind of fails a little bit. We have seen this several times before as well. So
I
I
think
would say
that's true. I think that's true more often than not. Is and this is the other problem. I mean, marketing needs to stop being let into the room until it's time to promote the film. It used to be a good practice, especially within Disney, when they were actually good at synergy, to have marketing hanging out in front of something. But Disney hasn't pre-marketed things well in a long time. I can take you all the way back to the very first Frozen movie to point out the fact that they weren't ready for that success. So even having marketing in the room on that project all the way back then, when Disney synergy was supposedly at its near peak, they haven't been able to do that. Well, I think the biggest problem and the biggest stumbling blocks now is there's too many people involved on the front end of the making of the movie process. Movie making by committee, we talk about that all the time. You hear it on all of the shows that, have talking heads like myself and Paul and Andre and many others, Tom, many others on. The biggest problem is too many people involved in the creative process. You need to have as few people that are involved in making the project, make the project, and then let marketing see what the final result is and start promoting it from there. Marketing should never be involved at the very beginning. I used to be able to argue the other way on that. Now I can't, because those people that are in marketing are a detriment to what's happening. And it's one of the reasons why we're seeing the collapse in gaming right now, is because of the likes of somebody like Bel Air with Sweet Baby Inc. and stuff like that. They come in, they tell you, you target the marketing department when you want to scare the
Right.
heck out of somebody. And if you're targeting the marketing department, who are already twisted in the head anyway, I mean, I know them, I love them, but a lot of the people that are my friends that used to do that, those people are wackaloons and are, they'll join, a team just to make something sell well so they can look good. But right now there's so much indoctrination in marketing departments that this is the kind of stuff you're ending up with. I don't know if you can agree or disagree with that, Paul, but I think that's probably the worst idea ever. Getting fewer people involved in that creative process would be helpful.
Well, I mean, are you talking about in the case of animated creative development?
Anything. And any of that. You don't want marketing involved until you're done.
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah.
But you don't want marketing involved even in technology companies. I mean,
Well, especially not in technologies. But yeah, anyway, I have my own experiences there. Yeah,
I agree with you. They have ideas. On the other hand, sales is another weird group of people also that hate marketing. They don't listen to each other. It's a weird world.
Yeah, I'll just relay one very brief story before we move on there. Like, I've done my share of fintech, and a frustration in technology development in general is we have the saying in Norway, which basically goes, "Do not sell the pelt of the bear until it has been shot." Right? Yeah. Which basically just means, like, don't sell until you are sure you can deliver. Well, the marketing where I used to be, they weren't even quite like that. They sold the pelt of the bear before the bear had been sighted in the first place, let alone being shot. So yeah.
In fact, I'm seeing that in lots of different industries tied to tech that I'm still tied to. and watching people sell product that they haven't even put together yet is insanity to me.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I mean, everything right now is Theranos all over again. If you just walk around the tech world, a lot of stuff that got funded, you're going, you can't do this blood sampling you're saying that you're going to be doing. So what? Yeah, this is there's a lot of fool's gold out there right
Oh
now.
hell
And,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I mean, there's a bank that went bankrupt for a reason, kids. I mean, come on now.
Ain't no oil like snake oil.
That's
several
right.
Yeah.
several.
And then we also got
bankruptcies.
gifted a membership by Ruby Hoof. Thank you so
Hey,
much for
Ruby
that.
Hoof.
And then this is a cool one. Patrick Robinson asks for $4.99. They are remaking Enemy Mine, the Dennis Quaid movie. Is the
man.
original worth checking
Yes.
out? I'm very glad you brought that up. I actually have that
Yes.
story prepared here, so that is kind of perfect.
Segue.
And it's not just that the movie is being remade, it's a matter of who is the one doing it. Star Trek Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas tackling remake of 1980 sci-fi movie Enemy Mine, an exclusive from
boy.
The Hollywood Reporter.
What are you going to do new with it?
I'm kind of read my thoughts there. So, gentlemen, for those that may not have seen Enemy Mine, what's the gist of the story? And have we seen this story before?
Two dogfight pilots engaged in a space battle end up shooting each other down. They end up on a planet that's rather hostile to them. One is an alien, one's a human. And
they're both alien on that planet.
True. They're both alien on the planet. That's also true. But they're enemies. Well, they had to figure out a way to work together, and they eventually it's about this amazing enemies become friends story, and ultimately because of their closeness, because one species is capable of reproduction despite being male of the species, they end up with a child between the two of them. Louis Gossett Jr. delivers probably one of the best performances he's ever had. And Dennis Quaid delivers one of the most powerful performances you will ever be able to witness. And ultimately, the war between the aliens and the humans, okay, for lack of a better way to put it, it comes to an end with peaceful resolution. And the end of it is heartbreaking. There is no good way to remake this movie, in my opinion.
No.
I think I think this is a fool's errand and a waste of Terry Matalas' talent. I would like to see him make something original. If you ask that question again, Mr. Robinson, I would say this: watch the original. It's mind-blowingly good. I don't know. What do you say, Paul?
It was one in a genre of thoughtful sci-fi.
Yes.
Of which there's very few. Not slam bang. I don't know if a modern audience is going to be able to stomach something that doesn't have pyrotechnics in it. And this movie is not about pyrotechnics. It's about Gossett's absolute staggering performance.
Oh my gosh.
As the alien. I mean, holy smokes. And I don't know how well it did. I don't know how seriously the movie was taken, but for those of us who are inside,
it did well enough to spawn a television series.
That's right. That's correct. I only think it lasted one season.
Well, I think a lot of that was because you were trying to movie a television show back then, which they weren't capable of doing. But
it's great. It's very All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
A German soldier meets an American soldier, and they find out they're both human. They're both human.
Both human, yeah.
And they're not both human here. Yeah, I would. You know what? I would love to see this movie now, just to see how I would react to its pace and things like that. But I have nothing but good memories of it.
They both find out that they're carbon-based life forms and can relate on that level. So
yeah, it's brilliant. If you have the time and haven't seen it, see the movie.
Yeah. I agree with all you guys. It's well worth seeing, but I think it's a very good chance that you might feel that you have seen it before, because it is a story that has been done so many times. I mean, top of my head, This exact same story has been done in at least 2 Star Trek episodes since the movie. It was in an episode of Enterprise as well as an episode of Next Generation. We have seen elements of it many places. There's one I really would have liked to have seen developed further, which we didn't get to see, which I think was a detriment to the movie itself. Case in point, that first King Kong movie in the MonsterVerse, like Kong Skull Island or something, where you have like the American soldier who crash lands with the Japanese soldier in the beginning of the movie. That was setting up the enemy mine plotline right there. Of course, then we fast forward 50 years and the Japanese is already dead, which I felt robbed of. So yeah, this is something that we have seen many times before. I don't see the point in remaking Enemy Mine again, because we have seen so many versions of it. And I'm like thinking, Teddy Matalis, Jesus, man, you have to pick better projects than this. This guy, he is so talented, as we saw in Picard Season 3. I know many people don't like Picard Season 3. I do have no issue with that. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I was amazed with the way that he was able to make lemonade out of the lemons he was given from Picard Season 1 and Season 2. Because he was only responsible for Season 3 there.
Watch 12 Monkeys.
That's also a great movie. Holy cow.
No, I'm talking about
series. He's talking about the series. He did the series.
Oh, I did not know that.
That's Terry.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, wow.
And that will show you it. Picard Season 3 wasn't an accident.
Exactly. And here is then this guy who really has some legit talent, and he is someone that actually can bring Marvel back from the brink. This is someone that needs to be the next James Gunn. This is who this is who Kevin Feige needs to talk to into taking over the MCU, basically, because this guy, he could do that. But instead, he is doing Vision, the last project he should be doing in the MCU, or the second last. The last would be the Scarlet Witch movie, which is sadly also happening. Vision being the second last, because again, it's just tied to homework. It is tied to a project that has done tremendous damage to the entirety of the MCU. Again, you want someone that can make lemonade out of that, brilliant, but it would be far better to just move on and have this guy serve up an amazing MCU, and they're not doing that. And here, in addition to that, he now, since he's just doing this one thing, he has the free time to make this remake. And just by being a remake is unlikely to be standing that well next to the original to begin with, because that very rarely happens. I'm like, Matalas, you're doing amazing, but seriously, you need to pick better projects. Pick projects that are more worthy of your talents, and this ain't it.
Well, the problem is that Hollywood is bereft of any kind of management that is willing to take risks. So
this is the issue here, because this is the frustration. This is the guy that should be saving the MCU.
Yeah,
he should be saving Star Trek, and instead he's doing these other, pardon my French, but throwaway things that are beneath him.
Maybe time will come. Maybe if this thing becomes hugely successful, then they'll finally give him a James Gunn level experience.
Yeah, but the MCU will be dead by then.
Yeah.
It's too late. He needs to get on the MCU right now.
I can't agree with you more. I think that most of the stuff he's doing is things he shouldn't be doing. He should be handling bigger projects. He should be handling bigger things. I don't know. I just, this is something that doesn't need to be remade. So start from that. Start from that point.
I agree with you. Well, who's going to come and want to watch this?
Us, but then we're going to compare it to the original and we're going to say it's not as good. So why are you doing that?
Yeah. And also on this topic, HyperGyver 2 has been a member for 21 months, and we're glad to have you, saying Star Trek has already done a remake of Enemy Mine. Yeah, at least 2, in fact. I think there may be more.
Yeah, I remember the Enterprise one now.
Yeah. Abduello says for $5, Jerry in Enemy Mine reproduces asexually on his own, similar to some worms.
Yep.
It's not the child between the two. Yes, this is true. So it's
Well,
not,
it was inspired by something, but if you rewatch the film, but that's neither here nor there.
yeah, basically. So it's a butt baby without being one. Yes, that's kind of like what we're going with there. Then Thunderstorm says for $4.99, I know it sounds mean. I don't think they have the skill to remake Enemy Mine or make
it's not
good
mean.
Marvel quality. Sorry, hope I'm wrong. Yeah, well, it is to hope, I guess. Then we have...
You know what they'll do? They'll probably put dots all over the actor's face playing the alien and skin it using CGI rather than some latex. A bit of mastery. That's what they'll do.
I think you may be right on that. I'm just going out on a limb there. And Tattooed Dude 67 says for $5, it's worth noting that Enemy Mine is a Wolfgang Petersen film. Yeah, it's what I think.
We all know what he did.
Well, he did Das Boot.
That's correct.
Yeah.
One of the best films of all time. Not too many people mention Das Boot, but I think it's got to be, for me, in my top 10.
It's an absolute masterpiece. Do you prefer the movie or the miniseries? Because it's actually filmed as a miniseries.
I've never seen
and then it's cut down to a movie. I'll hook you up with it if you want.
I've never seen. All I know is that I saw the German version with English subtitles, and I was sweating bullets.
Yeah, in other words, you saw the only version anyone should be seeing.
I was so unbelievably rooting for these human beings to just make it safely. What an amazing movie. Just astounding. It won an Academy Award, didn't it?
It did. I believe it did. I do not have it in front of me, but I do believe that the Das Boot won an Academy Award. And also amazing soundtrack. I mean, even the soundtrack for it got.
I don't think I could watch it again. I'd be claustrophobic. I mean, it's just unbelievable movie.
Yeah, indeed it is. Indeed it is. And then Mr. Oh yeah, and of course we also have Mexican Iron Man who's watching. Hey Mike, if you have the time, you're welcome to pop in here. And he says, "You guys are wrong, LOL. They're gonna rename it Enemy They Them." Indeed.
Mike, you're giving them bad ideas again.
Enemy It.
Oh God.
But that's very Rossist of you. Like, respect its pronouns.
Sorry.
Yeah. Then Mr. Tickletrunk sent us a reminder that we also have some Rumble rants. I cannot get them up on screen since Tom is not here, but I can read them out loud. And Mr. Tickletrunk says for $5, is James O'Keefe a journalist, reporter, or activist? Or is he a mix of all three? And I would say he's a mix of all three, with the hedge that he's activist in the good sense of the word, and not the kind of sense that we've seen for the past 15 years, where the activists are the ones actively working to destroying the world.
Or he's what journalists used to be.
That's true. He's a journalist. That's the summary. An actual journalist.
He goes out and he researches things, investigates things, does what needs to be done to get a story. Now the mainstream media is, oh wow, this is the press release from your company. Cool. I'm gonna write a story. In fact, they sometimes don't even have to do that. They'll troll the PR newswire or whatever, and that's their story. Whatever you say is the story is the story. It's how you end up with tech companies buying into things like Theranos and stuff like that.
Exactly. Also, Mr. Tickletrunk sent another $5 Rumble rant for Paul, saying, I'd argue horror movies aren't lazy. They are formulaic generally, but you can still do a lot with them. You still get movies like the recent The Coffee Table, which is blowing up right now.
Yeah, listen, within every genre, you can get creative. I'm not saying that. It's just that I find it tiresome that people are laying into that genre so heavily. Like I said, I'd like to see more not driving Miss like Little Miss Sunshine's. The movie Sideways about the guys trying to get drunk and doing some Beaujolais. I mean, that scene with the golf course where they're arguing with each other, preventing the guys from, the tee behind them to move. And then finally they strike the ball at them. And then he takes the ball and strikes it right back at them. I mean, it's a brilliant, cheap movie based on brilliant script writing and a phenomenal performance by those two guys, Christian Church and God damn it, with the Italian name. Anyway,
Giamatti.
Just a fantastic movie. I want to see more movies like that. Little Miss Sunshine, Sideways. We need those kinds of movies.
Yeah. I'm with you, Paul. You and I are on the same wavelength. The problem is that that's not what Hollywood wants to make. They want these big budget prestige pictures. I mean, they'll make garbage. They'll make a pseudo biopic that Daisy Ridley was just in about the woman in the sea or whatever it was, and that's going to bring about $6 into the theater. But it's at the same time, I mean, it was done to bait, and to try to keep Daisy relevant, because she hasn't had any. I know people keep coming back and be saying, well, she's been in other stuff. Yes, $6 movies. She's not been in anything that's been of consequence since Star Wars.
But giving her the benefit of the doubt, do you think that movie is what we're calling one of these classic mid movies, but in this particular case, it just didn't work?
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I don't think it was one of the classic mid movies. What was the one recently about the rowing? I saw
the row, like the World War II one or World War I or something.
Yeah, where they were crew. They were doing the crew.
I forget the name of it, but yes.
I mean, that was a really good movie. It did decently in the box office for what it cost. But again, you're right. We need breakfast. I'm going to keep saying it. We need breakfast. I'm sorry. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
I believe the Michael Caine movie where he went back, he escaped from the old folks.
Oh, yeah.
I never saw that in the theater. I'm going to try to watch it. I never even read a review as to whether the movie was any good or not. But this was the man's last movie, one of the greatest actors of all time. Right. And nobody made any big deal out of even that fact alone. So I can't believe that movie sucked, but I want to see it.
Yeah, and the film that I'm talking about is The Boys in the Boat.
That's the one. Yes.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of films out there that we can talk about. This is something I'm rightfully shamed for by Chris Score. I don't see enough of the independent cinema films. I don't see enough of the smaller budget films. I'm trying to amend that behavior and do better when it comes to that. But if I don't see it in theaters, I eventually see it on streaming somewhere, whether it be Amazon or some other place. But I have to say, we do need more films like that. We need a movie going audience that can afford to see those films. Because the other factor here is that I don't want to pay $15 to see, Fred's movie of the week, right?
No.
So
if
all of the petrodollar you're going to, but that's
so the thing is, if let's say the wonderful movie The Band's Visit, I don't know if you know that movie. It's about an Egyptian orchestra, a band that ends up in Israel.
Was it a follow up to Spinal Tap?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right, very good.
So The Band's Visit is an absolutely phenomenal, feel good, multicultural film that, if it was $15 when I saw it in the theater, I wouldn't go see it. Like, I think it was $5 or whatever back in the day. They need to lower. We've talked about this before. They need to lower the cost of going to a movie. Yeah, we're not going to go see the small films.
Absolutely. But moving on, we have a few super chats, and I know I'm starting to lose panelists soon. So let us speed up here. Joe's Atmosphere says for $1.99 or clarifies, Das Boot, nominated for 6 Oscars, 1-0.
Wow.
That's a disgrace right there.
It is.
This is not nominated, so it has that though. And Pinochet answered the question
through a screen door.
James O'Keefe is what is known as a muckracker or muckracker. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that term myself. I have to
Troublemaker.
Oh, okay. Well, that is what a good investigative journalist is supposed to be. So good on that one.
Basically.
Packing Protons has a question for Culture. Is it possible for TBA to stall mid-drop? It's malfunctioned everywhere else in the ride.
Oh, it's not possible.
You have to explain to us what this means.
TBA is Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It's
Okay.
formerly Splash Mountain. And no, I mean, could it theoretically happen? You'd have to have massive failure in 2 locations at once for it to get wedged in there. And that likely would cause some guests to maybe have a real problem plummeting from that point. But I don't suspect that it's possible for it to happen, because that would require it to wedge. And again, that would be 2 failures in 2 locations. I don't think it is. But you're right, it has failed in other locations throughout the entire attraction. And there's a lot of different locations for e-stops of logs and things like that to occur. And they have. The reception of this attraction is equal to its thoughtfulness. So it wasn't very thoughtful, so it's getting a lot of hate, and it deserves every bit of it. So, but I suspect that trying to marry old and new systems together is primarily the cause of most of this. And since you were seeing a lot of failures with animatronics and various cues, audio cues, I would suspect that just trying to marry an old technology with new is a major problem. They also are going to have a lot of electrical faults going forward because of the way the animatronics are operated versus the way they used to be. Piezoelectric versus a nitrogen line compression, which is the way it used to. All it required was an electrical signal to turn on and off the actuators themselves. Yeah. Rather than what's being done now with his all piezoelectric. So I think they have insufficient electrical system to operate in some of the locations where they're having faults, but that's neither here nor there. The obvious question would be, I don't think it's going to fail their packing, but I love that brilliant thinking. So
They should never have abandoned the internal combustion engine. That's all I have to say.
Well, it was all pneumatic lines. It does in this case for that attraction it was nitrogen that they use.
Fuel is very reliable as a general thing. Combustion and fuel, good chemical reaction, can't go wrong. ActionCom has another question for you, Culture, for $5. Yeah. Would you ever watch shorts, especially the ones that are up for Academy Awards?
Yeah, I used to watch them all the time. In fact, I really appreciated the stuff that Pixar used to do. I thought that they were rather brilliant. And most recent example of that was the recent short cartoon of Donald Duck that was released in a classic style, and it had all the classic sense in it. I do appreciate shorts. I even appreciate short films that are put together by people, which I think that there's a unique art to doing that as well. Just like with documentaries, you have to have a unique ability to put together good documentaries as well. So of course,
I may actually prefer the animated shorts.
Yeah,
especially the ones from Disney. I'm so glad that I have the original tin boxes of the complete Disney animated shorts.
Yeah, I have them
Only
too.
a
couple are missing, which are really freaking bugging me. And Disney Plus is useless for that because the few ones which have been remastered, they've been cut down from 8 to 2 minutes. How insane is that? What's the point in remastering it for HD when you're going to cut away 70% of the content? It's insane. But so if you have those DVD tents, then keep on to them because that's likely the only place you'll ever see Disney's near complete shorts in the future. And then while you're both still here, Stargate 404 says for $9.99, loved your vids on the fall of Marvel. Oh, thank you. Chris Gore said he heard murmurs that Marvel is course correcting and fired 15 producers, but Star Wars is doubling down. Is Marvel correcting? Will Star Wars ever be salvageable? It's a lot of questions right there. What say you, gentlemen? Culture, let's begin with you.
Are they correcting? I don't know. Could they? Sure. Will they? No. You've got 3 terrible films coming up after Deadpool and Wolverine that I don't think anybody cares about. Does anybody care about Thunderbolts? Raise your hand. Okay. I don't see anybody. Okay, I'm just saying. I mean, I know audience participation and all because you guys don't have camera. Turn your cameras on. What's wrong with you? Anyway? But no, honestly, they don't have anything to offer. Plus, Blade's dead in the water. I don't care what anybody says, right? Marcello's moved on. Right, you're going to come back to this guy and say, "Oh, we finally have a director that's going to work with you." Right, we're going to bring in the John Wick dude because he's Stolinsky. You know who he's doing good. Yeah, well, too late, guys. And then you're trying to shoehorn in a bunch of garbage. The only reason that the Blade thing isn't going to work is because of the shoehorn garbage they were trying to put in that Marcello wanted nothing of. He wanted to be the star of the film. The film's named Blade. It's not that hard to write a Blade movie. I can do it.
And also, I don't think Disney knows how to make a genre movie because it's really a vampire movie.
It is.
And it has to be done cheaply. Do you know what I mean? It has to have that feel of being done inexpensively.
Yeah. You don't want too much polish on it. It's got to be gritty. It has to ooze film grain.
Correct.
And wow, we barely got this shot together because we moved over where we were framing. We slid the mat over so we would cover up this bad thing that was over here on the right hand side.
Yeah, it's got to be cheap. It's got to feel canon. Like Canon Productions, because it doesn't deserve the Marvel treatment.
No,
and it's not fun.
Yeah, and you took out the best. I'm sorry, Wesley Snipes is Blade. And
what is so ridiculous about Blade in particular? This is a point that Mr. H made as well. It's like I said, like you don't spend years upon years upon years developing a Blade movie.
No,
you agree on the pitch in 5 minutes. You write it out over the course of the week, and you start filming it in a fortnight. That's how you do it. And what you do is basically you look at the Raid, you look at Dread, you do that concept, which is basically find some reason to lock Blade in with a building of vampires, slaughter them all, rated R, the end.
Done. Done.
Yeah. And to answer the question here, though, I've also heard the same murmurs from Chris Boyd and Marvel are trying to course correct, but they're not freaking trying hard enough to, because if they really were, they needed to cancel everything that is coming apart from Daredevil and apart from Deadpool. Beyond that, they have to cancel everything. And they need to get Terry Matalas in and start over for them. But all of the movies that are coming, like for instance this Captain America 4, which is costing the same as 4 movie by the time it's coming out, it's going to be a disaster. Thunderbolts is going to be a disaster. Everything that isn't Daredevil on Disney Plus is going to be a complete and total disaster. That's just going to ruin the brand. And the damage is cumulative. It doesn't matter how much money they spent on it. They'd be better off just taking a tax deduction. I mean, and then they would really show that they mean business here. They did that with Daredevil when they scrapped the episodes they had filmed and went back to the drawing board. That was good, but they need to do that with everything else. And until they do that, it's just words.
They don't know how to have fun. And I would, we all know that Captain America got stuck in the ice and got frozen for, 40 years and then end up in the modern world. But I mean, there's nothing stopping us from having a movie in between when him falling into the ice and him becoming super and fighting Red Skull for another whole movie. I would watch a whole Captain America fights Red Skull movie.
There's so many more films they could have made. They rushed a lot of things. They rushed in between the team up movies, right? And you still could have done that. You didn't need to rush the Endgame movie. You didn't need to. And even after Endgame, if you had not made the final situations done, where these people died, this person got old, whatever it was, you could have gone back in time and made a bunch of stuff because Captain America and the Falcon were the best team up ever and were beautiful to watch. And then, I'm sorry. I'm screwed it up. Yeah. It's just, I don't get it. You were left money on the table. That bothers me
because they're not thinking like comic book publishers like Stan Lee that were always close to bankruptcy. and they were always hungry. The Marvel was not the big success in comic books at the time. They were
Right.
always within inches of going under, but so they just wanted to please the public, just like, got to get out the next thing that's going to sell something, anything, please, something. And we just missed that in Marvel. I mean, Disney Marvel has none of that hunger.
There's no desperation, right? Which is what happened there towards the end, which is why Marvel got so fractional because it got fractionally sold to others to make things, right?
Yeah,
the rights were.
that was a
So I'm going to
terrible
ask.
time.
Yeah, I got to ask Andre then, right? This is where Ike Perlmutter falls into place, right? Because when they shed him, they shed that last vestige of that thought process that Paul's
Correct.
talking about.
That's when
So-
everything went to hell.
Yeah, and you know, by not having oversight over somebody who's driven by something that's not, you know, making compelling product, that's when you lost control of the. That's what you lost control. By the way, guys, these super chats today are brilliant. Well done. My goodness.
Yeah. Speaking of, we have a few more. Cultured, how long do you have?
I can stick around a few more minutes.
Okay, we have to speed up then. But first, ActionCom has a follow-up to the question about shorts. Paul, would you ever star in a short?
Sure, I'd do a short. That'd be fun.
And then let us get back to the top here, because I took them a little bit topic-wise rather than in the order they came. Marksman of 117B says for $1.99, Paul earned his wings. Look at him soar.
And that's in reference
yes,
to
indeed,
my
that was glorious.
my
Was
World
indeed.
War II video.
And Easy Gamer 89 also said for $5, happy birthday, Chato. Your plane flight in your father's jacket was really cool. Your wife must be an awesome woman. And
She
I
is.
concur with that. She lets him come out and play with us all the time.
She is really awesome.
She's even made some cameos on streams, which is always cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We love it when people do that. There was like this one time when Helen Midden actually showed up on stream that way, which is brilliant. Yes, Paul, I'm not joking. That actually happened.
Oh no, I remember that.
Yeah. So that was brilliant. And then back to the top again. Pilgrim Media one says, "Good day, sirs. What's your definition of a shill?" Culture, real quick. How do you define a shill?
Well, a lot of it depends on their statements versus the facts or the situation around them. For example, Grace Randolph recently came out and said that no matter what, her opinions or her things were all or her channel or her videos about Acolyte were all going to be positive, and that's what her videos were for, is people who wanted to be positive, or talk about things in a positive manner about the Acolyte. So a shill is somebody who, despite all evidence, despite anybody, any of their peers, and with perhaps an inclination to say positive things because there might be a reward at the end of the tunnel, that's a shill. Access media are shills because they do something for access. They're not doing it. They're very cognizant or aware of the fact that if they say something negative about something, they will no longer get access to something. They're compromised. A shill is somebody who's compromised in order to continue to have access or any other thing or some form of reward.
Thank you for that very long, short description.
I need.
Paul, do you have another short definition?
No, I think you can correct me if you can disagree with me. I think one other thing that needs to be added to this is shill is someone who has the patina of a legitimate commentator. I have no problems with something like Entertainment Tonight, which is shill from the get-go. Like, that's its job.
Yeah. Trade mags. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, there is no pretense to what it's doing. It's promoting stuff, and everything is great. Everybody on it is great, and everything that they're doing is great. That to me is not shilling. to me, shilling is someone who pretends that they're a legitimate commentator and then falls under the spell of the studios. That to me is a shill.
Yeah, I kind of like agree with that. Like, for instance, there was a time when I would praise everything that came from Marvel because it was genuinely good. People accused me. Think of that. People, like, once upon a time, people accused me of being a Marvel and Kevin Feige and Disney shill because I spoke so positively about them until there was no longer any reason to. And then let's just say those accusations have stopped.
Well, yeah. Look, you can talk positive about something that you enjoy. You can be a fan of things that there's nothing wrong with that. It's. I like the way you put that, Paul. The patina of somebody capable of giving an objective opinion. I love that.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
Thin veneer.
Yeah, and man, that's so good. But the recognition that people that do what they do are tainted by something. Oh, by the way, my favorite thing about what Grace went into prior to the weekend was calling us grifters.
Yeah, that's a nice go-to right there.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, lady, you make money on your channel, right?
To my credit, I haven't accepted a single sponsorship for any of our Acolyte videos. So yeah.
Oh, I need to do that.
Start doing that, then you can
wait. Is there money in saying nice things about Acolyte?
No, but there's potentially money in trashing it if you can find a sponsor willing to be there for it.
Okay. All right.
Moving on, Chaos Sonic says for $5 with the Acolyte. I mean, what did Disney expect? Seriously, if they were told this is going to hurt Star Wars fans, and now they are screwed. Any thoughts on this? What could Disney possibly be expecting here?
They made it for themselves, and it turned out the way it's turning out. Where episode 4 is going to be on tomorrow night. I don't know what they were thinking, but they weren't thinking about us.
Yeah. Speaking of shows, I just have to bring up a story here because this seems like a pertinent time for it. I'm really happy with the most recent article from Forbes magazine here, which is hilarious. This is not
Paul
Eric Kane, the sensible one in Forbes. This is Paul Tassi, the new Scott Mendelson of Forbes. Because remember, they're not really Forbes employees so much as they're freelance writers writing for Forbes. And he writes, the Acolyte's 15% audience score is embarrassing for the audience scorers. So yeah, it's not embarrassing for the production at all. It's only embarrassing for us, the audience, because what the hell is wrong with us for giving this amazing production a mere 15% audience rating? That's insane. And he goes on. So he starts talking about review bombing and everything, and then he also starts talking about poor Leslie Headland, who's been abused. He says it right here. Showrunner Leslie Headland has starred in many YouTube thumbnails lambasting the woke nature of the series, but also it allegedly breaking canon. And then he shows an example of this thumbnail, and it's mine. I feel so honored. Pictured here is the thumbnail for our most recent video, the one with Grace, and where we correct our mistake in mislabeling Dave Filoni's wife in the previous video. And that is one that Forbes magazine saw fit to actually highlight in their article. Of course, they didn't link to it. They just screenshotted it. But still, that's cool. It's nice with some recognition right there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Moving on, we have a question from Jaloja, who says for 14 South African rounds, will Disney learn its lesson?
No. It doesn't feel like it has any lessons to learn.
you look, Jaloja. just understand that you are the person that's supposed to be learning right now. They're teaching you.
Yeah,
So-
that's kind of like what this piece is all about.
Yeah.
This article, like I stopped here on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Culture. That was not
No,
my
it's fine.
intention. So
Keep going.
But
No,
just to like illustrate, yeah, that's what this is. This whole piece in Forbes is about
you're wrong.
you need to be ashamed of yourself. 15% audience score? That's embarrassing. They don't accept this. You need to do better. That's the whole point here. So no, Disney won't learn anything. They feel that it's we that needs to learn our lesson. In fact, there was a piece that we covered last week that even said that, made again a reference to horrible haters with online platforms like us. People like us, we're the ones that need to learn the lesson, although we keep on being proven right and be in sync with the audience. But still, so I guess it's we and the audience that needs to learn the lesson because we're synced together. I think that's the official narrative. We need to learn the lesson.
Well, I think I mentioned at our last confab that if they did something that would represent something similar to what those of us online are saying needs to be done for a course correction, i.e., return it to a boy brand, and it's successful, I think that's a huge slap in their face. They don't want to entertain the idea that us peons might actually be right because they're smarter than us.
Yeah, they are our betters. We are just
right.
worthless users of air.
They're telling us what to do. They know better than us.
Yeah.
So that
They
I don't
aristocrats, mind you. Well, we're
Yes,
just peons. Yes.
that is correct. So they're not going to do anything to prove us right.
Nope. Correct. So that answers that question. Dr. Longdong sent us a super sticker, and in
Thank you.
celebration, everyone should smash that like. Help share the stream, let everyone know we're alive. And then Matthew Buono sends us $10 saying, first time, long time. Oh, awesome. Glad to see you. Thank you. And he says, I think the DEI requirements for producer, director, and writer have eclipsed any power a movie star has anymore. This is a good point. I mean, there have been a number of actors even that have said that the kind of movies that they used to make aren't made anymore. Matt Damon, for instance, he's one of the stars who have come out and say he has trouble getting roles right now because movies in his budget bracket are no longer being made, and part of that, not exclusively, but part of that is due to DEI requirements because some movies just have to give. And a mid-budget movie like that, starring a white man, oh no, if they're doing something like that, there's going to be some DEI in it.
Well, and there was a time when Will Smith was at his best that I got tired of certain properties that I loved, and they just stuck him in it. I'm going, okay, why are they putting him in that book?
Well, that may be a Will Smith thing, and him being a movie star more so than a DEI.
Yeah, but I'm saying it goes that way too.
Yeah. Well, true. And then the God King wonders, are we at a point Disney has to reboot Star Wars? Any thoughts on that quickly?
Reboot Disney.
Yeah, I think so. Like, you don't reboot Star Wars. You mean like as in completely reboot everything from episode 4 onwards? No, then it's done. You can never reboot Star Wars or remake Star Wars. You have to keep the original trilogy. You should keep the prequel trilogy, and beyond that, you merely retcon what you don't like and keep building new stuff around it. That's the way to go there. Liquid Metal Rob says for £5, imagine Armor Wars, where Rhodey gets an AI Tony voice in his suit. In the third act, we get a suit controlled by AI Tony, and Iron Man's back in the game. Don't give them ideas. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I mean, that would be one way of sidelining Robert Downey Jr. right there. So,
and Rhodey would never go for it.
Yeah, I mean that's I see where you're coming from, but I think in the execution that would be a good way of ruining Rhodey, Iron Man, AI, and Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark all in one. You have to be really careful with the execution on that one. That'd be like, the AI replica right there. But thanks for the suggestion, though. And then Sebastian Skarheim, my countryman, says for 59 Norwegian krona, tusen takk. I'd watch a Thor movie directed by Robert Eggers, although I'm not about 100% sure he'd never direct a movie like that. I'd watch the hell out of a Robert Eggers directed Thor movie. You know what that could be? That could actually be a prequel taking place in the Viking era, dealing with how the pan-dimensional beings first came to Norway in Tønsberg, which has appeared several times, and how this tie between Norway and the pan-dimensional beings formed in the first place, and why they became so prevalent in Nordic culture. That would be one hell of a movie, and that would be a great pairing for an auteur director. If they could just find a way to make his talents work within the MCU context, that would be the perfect project for it. I'd watch the hell out of it.
There's a series called Thor, I believe, which I saw bits and pieces of, which I was sort of okay, which happened in a small town, which had kind of elements to it. I believe it was a was it Norwegian or Swedish? I'm trying to remember who did it, but it was kind of interesting. A young man turned out to be Thor, and he was fighting the evil businesses.
Could it have been called something other than Thor? Could it have been called,
I can't remember the name of it. Anyway,
yeah, because I think it's one of those series that I never bothered watching, but I think I know which one you mean. I think it may be Norwegian.
And I believe it's Norwegian. But I think, well, first of all, we're very tainted with Marvel's visualization of the Nordic saga. And I think if it's Robert Eggers, then you're exactly right. As soon as he said that, I went, wow, if this ended up looking like Beowulf, like unbelievably rustic, as if these gods actually existed.
We got it. It's Netflix on Ragnarok. Yeah, it's Norwegian.
That's correct. Netflix,
I took one look at the trailer and I decided, I'm sitting this one out.
It was slow, boring. I stopped watching it. But I would love to have a retelling that made it look like it was for real.
Did you just call me slow and boring?
Did I? Ragnar, what? I didn't call you.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you did it, but Cultured Casino, he felt that you did it, so you just microaggressed him. So now he can microaggress you back again.
Where's your rainbow beard?
It's not a rainbow yet, though. I'm working on it.
Waiting. I need you to paint it.
Apparently, I can only grow two colors: black and
white. Start drinking food coloring.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound healthy.
And then Matthew W says for $5, Inside Out 3. She's middle-aged and getting her eggs frozen and adopting a cat and asking her lesbian girlfriend what kind of sperm donor they want. Yeah, that would be modern day Disney for you, right? And again, don't give them ideas. I mean, that can happen before you know it.
Inside Out 3. She's divorced and she's on the market again. And she's playing Tinder. So
Snail Messiah has been a member for 35 months. We're glad to have you. Chaos Sonic says for $5, Iker will take credit for Inside Out 2 as the snake he is, and we will remind him that it was his fault the stock fell twice. Yeah, because no one else is going to do it. Well, it feels like we're the only. Well, of course, and James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe is
as well. Yeah, I think he's going to help the stock price.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe he's going to make it so that and Nelson Peltz gets back in sooner rather than later. Might be a golden opportunity. We'll see here. And what's best in life? I do like that name. Says for $5. Hail Midnight's Edge. Is Godzilla -1 getting a physical release? What say you, Cultured?
It's delayed. Gosh, I wish Tom was here because he could tell us when approximately
he could tell you exactly on the date, but sadly Tom is under the weather right now.
So prayers for Tom. Believe me, I just got over the crud. Don't get the crud right now. It's not fun crud.
Stay away from birds, I guess.
Anyway, no, but I do know there will be a physical release. The nice thing is you can actually watch this on streaming right now, which is great, and you can see it in glorious 4K.
Yeah.
So.
From what I understand, it already has a physical release in
What?
Japan.
Oh.
So yeah, in Japan,
Hmm.
which means that one should be forthcoming everywhere else. It's just a matter of when.
Hey,
And
I'm big in
Netflix still
Japan.
may have pushed that. Yeah,
I'm big in Japan, just so you know.
yeah. You and I know Guano Apes did a cover up big in Japan, which is pretty awesome
Yes, they
cover as well, if
did.
you ask me. It was Alphaville that had the original, right?
Yep, I think
Yeah,
so.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. And Stargate 404 says for $4.99, as Hollywood always learns the wrong lesson. What do you think Hollywood and Iger in particular will take away from the performance of the Acolyte versus Inside Out?
Ooh.
As Hollywood always learns the wrong lessons. What do you think Hollywood and Iger will take away from performance of? They won't believe Acolyte is a failure. This is the problem right now with Disney, because they're just not fixated on being a purely capitalist organization. They feel that they've got this greater good that they're providing the world at large. So it's like the Soviets. You know, they don't care what kind of failures they had. It was a ideologically driven group of people, and I think Disney is now, because they blame us for failures. They're not they're not going to accept internally that they did anything wrong. That's how I'm reading it.
I think that you're half right. Right. I think that that's going to be the public perception, and we see that already through Paul Tassi and Forbes. They didn't do anything wrong. It's you, the viewer. You are the one that has this wrong. They did the right thing. But behind the closed doors, I think they're going to be like, "Damn, we screwed this up," and they're going to try to fix it without ever admitting that they did anything wrong. What do you think, Culture?
I think you're right. I mean, both you and Paul, as usual. But no, I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, so the lesson they're going to learn from Acolyte will be that they didn't do enough to make this feel like Star Wars. That'll be the lesson they'll learn. They'll be like, we got everything else right. We just didn't make it Star Wars enough, and they don't seem to understand that at all.
Or the audience was just not ready for it.
That's a showrunner explanation there, and I'm sure we'll hear that from Weinstein's former personal assistant here in the future. But
indeed.
yeah, but Inside Out, I think the lesson they're going to take away from that is that sequels work. We just need to continue to lean into our IP.
Yeah, bring on 3 more Inside Out movies coming before you know it.
Honestly, that's all that we need to do.
And Varachi says for $5, Hollywood has criminally underused or abused many actors, actresses that in earlier eras would be superstars due to their adherence to the message. Yeah. That's a long and sordid story right there. Too long to get into now, but you are right. And the Wicked Fanboy became a new member, and welcome you, and we're glad to have you. New membership stream coming soon as Tom is back among the living. And the God King says for 14 South African rands, why would Paul Giamatti's agent lower him to Academy? Oh, this is one for Paul.
Is he in the Star Wars Academy?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know what that means. I mean,
maybe he is
one of the.
Well, if he is, then that would be. Well, just pay attention to the chat. Maybe someone there will clarify.
Wow,
but if he is, that would totally be because his agents. Yeah, Star Trek Academy. Star Trek Academy. The God King clarifies. So even worse.
Oh no! Well, he's getting a big paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of money to go around in these secret hideout Star Trek shows, because Paramount are the ones footing the bill. But for him, a lot of money in it. Probably too much money for the agent to say no to.
So what they're looking for here is like a paper chase. They want a crusty white guy who's going to give the kids a hard time.
That he can be the evil white guy, the villain of the show, yeah.
Or Yeah, well, I mean, these
there you
days,
go.
any student who is told that what they're doing is wrong, or maybe they didn't do well enough in their text, that's evil. It's no longer, they're no longer learning from that.
Yeah,
That's a bad thing.
indeed. Maybe the students can have an uprising against him.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to have like a encampment episode.
I wouldn't be surprised. And then they say something about well, it depends on which kind of home world he's from, but maybe it'd be
Exactly.
like something from Kardasha to the neutral zone. The Bajorans will be free, or something like that.
That's right. I
Yeah,
completely agree with you.
yeah, probably that should be fun.
Yes, the what is it? The let the Borg go.
Yeah, indeed. Locutus was right all along, or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's right. That's right.
Justice for Khan. Oh my God, yeah. Pilgrim Media says for $2. Elephant in the room. Captain America is black. Yeah, we know that. Captain America is black, and the Falcon is Mexican. And Marvel is being Marvel, and they say they want to course correct, but they're not fixing that.
Yeah, they aren't course correcting anything. That's the thing I think we all need to understand. They're not course correcting anything. They're still leaning into things that failed in the comics.
Yeah. Thunderstorms also says on that for $4.99. They have wrecked 2 superheroes in one blow, making Falcon Captain America without the serum. It makes no sense. Yeah. That's,
well, there's nothing super about him. He's not a super soldier. The dude, he takes damage. He's going to get messed up just like Rhodey did in the suit.
And right? The new Falcon is going to be a groundskeeper. Like, I don't get it.
Why? I'm going to be quiet now.
Are you saying he's going to be Scottish like Willie and the Simpsons?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Scottish Mexican. There we go. Yeah,
it's not Scottish. It's crap.
It's crap. It's not Scottish.
Exactly. No true Scotsman. And Christopher Dominguez has been a member for 2 months, saying, will there ever be any good films coming this year? The -colored version of Godzilla -1 was the only film I saw. Well, as we've been saying, there has been a great movie coming already. It's called Beekeeper.
Yeah.
And I still stand by that as of June 17th, Beekeeper remains the best movie to come out in 2024. Let's see if that still holds true by the end of the year.
Is the new horror? I saw a trailer for a horror version of Alien, like a real full-on horror version.
Yeah, that's coming this summer, coming soon here. Let's see how that holds up. But I can't imagine that you would. Well, yeah, you never know. But yeah, there's some competition for Beekeeper, but I still think it's a very good chance that come December 31st, I'm going to look back and say, you know what? Yeah, there were some decent ones, but Beekeeper is still the best movie of the year.
But that's not the way it should be, because Beekeeper.
That's not. I'm saying that movie. Exactly. That's not the way it should be. But I think that with as few movies are coming right now for a variety of reasons, and because so many have been pushed to later years, that's one of the ones that could come, and given the quality of what we have seen so far and how disappointing much with promise ultimately was, Beekeeper to me is the best movie to come out in 2024. So check that out. And beyond that, I mean, remember last time we had this discussion, I actually had to look up to see which movies did I actually see last week again. What did I see? I've forgotten all of it.
And I think that's an even more important problem we haven't discussed thoroughly, which is the fact that nothing's memorable anymore. I mean, think about it. What was the last memorable film you saw?
Indeed. And while you think about that, let us move on with the super chats here. And here's a comment on another super chat. STR Red Wolf says for $5, suit controlled by AI Tony. Actually been done in the comic series. He's even remotely piloted those Iron Man frames. Not a new idea. I'm not surprised though. I mean, if you look at the What If Marvel comics from the 70s and 80s, that's kind of what they've been doing in the mainline comics. Well, the last 20 years.
They did it with Ultra. What's his name?
Ultraman?
No. Ultron.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Ultron was all about that.
Yeah, true. And Michael
Yeah.
Bomer became a new member. Welcome. We're glad to have you as well. And the God King just wants us all to know that he likes his lesbians in TV shows naked and in high definition, preferably 4K definition, I should
I
imagine. But, yeah,
I don't know that it would have improved viewership of the show.
it probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Just don't put
And
horns on their head.
They do that.
well, some people. Well, let's not slut shame
Oh,
or
sorry.
kink shame. That
Sorry.
I meant to say kink shame. Like you never know what people might get off on. So
You're
yeah.
true. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Proto Badger says for $5, Mortal was a good movie about Thor. Or maybe that's what you meant, Mortal. Yeah, that's also one I saw the trailer of and then decided, yeah, I'm going to skip this one. And Gotham guy says for $5, shout out to Chato. I came across your channel a month ago and I love it. The bit with you talking to Leslie over the phone was hilarious.
Yeah, she was very effusive. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly.
I do what comes to my brain. I don't have any control over what goes in my brain.
And Chris K wonders for $2, any Conan or Red Sonja news? Sadly, no, not in terms of movies or TV series. All of Hollywood has been in a standstill over strikes and everything like that. There's a new strike looming up. So I wouldn't anticipate anything from Conan for a while yet. I hope it comes for Red Sonja. It's a matter of finding distribution. And as far as I know, it still doesn't have a distribution agreement. So no news on either front, and we wait with bated breath. With Red Sonja, though, there still is hope then, as long as this one doesn't have distribution, that someone might get the good idea that, if we were to like redo this movie with Sydney Sweeney, it's gonna make a shit ton of money. So we can always live in that hope. And finally, the Wicked Fanboy says for $2, The Beekeeper was brilliant fun. Cheers, guys. Yes. I mean, people could maybe accuse me of chilling for that movie, but you can't, because I really genuinely enjoyed it. So yeah. And with that, we are actually fully caught up. So then I want to say thanks to everyone who has been joining us here today. Thanks to Culture. Thanks to Mr. Chato. Cultured, where can people find you? And what do you want to plug on your way out the door?
Well, I actually have a video coming out in about, well, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes of basically some of the stuff we've already talked about here today, recorded it this morning, and talking specifically about Forbes attacking fans, because I think that's not a good model to be used. And it kind of draws attentions to the people draws the attention of people paying attention to the financial outcomes of Disney right now, that maybe there's people not liking things that Disney are putting together. And maybe that's a bad thing for our investments. So it's funny because Kane, as you mentioned before, put together something great. So that video is coming out a little bit later today, and we've got we've got a couple other things coming out. I mean, it's Monday, so I'll be hanging out with comics division, and I'm working in the background to get the gaming channel off the ground. That Game Place will launch later this week, which will basically have real game journalism happening. It'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks, everybody.
Indeed. And then, Paul, before we hear from you, we actually have another Rumble rant, as Mr. Tickle Trunks reminded us. And thank you for that, because it doesn't show up automatically in here. But Partsy sent us $2 saying, Chato, on your favorite topic of gear porn, I rewatched Guyver, Dark Hero, recently. Have you seen it? Check that final fight. It's on YouTube. Erection is imminent. Your lady can thank me later.
Okay.
So, yeah, you have to see that, evidently.
Well, I love my gear porn.
Yeah. Well, you have been given a tip there, Mr. Chato. Anything you want to push on? Your
Well, I just released a quite extensive video on my appalling news on the variety of horrific defacement of pride sidewalks that seem to be an epidemic in the United States. Ironically, burning the American flag is allowed based on the First Amendment, but many communities are making defacing a pride sidewalk a felony.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's kind of amusing. So
Yeah, I find it amusing. I think that's funny, and I made a video about it being, I think, is quite funny. So please, watch that. And just with regards to Red Sonja, if they look up Cameron Brink, she's a rookie in the WNBA. She's like 2 meters tall. She's over 6 feet, stunning. And man, if she was Red Sonja, I think the movie would be a massive hit. I mean, if she could act, but it doesn't really require a lot of acting. Schwarzenegger, when he first started off as Hercules, I mean, it took him a long time to get his chops together, but we still watched his movies, right? Because he was so adorable. So yeah, if Cameron Brink could be recast as Red Sonja, then I think that would be a huge hit. So anyways, listen, thank you for having me, and thanks for letting me plug my channel, Andre.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Also, thanks to the mods for helping out. Really appreciate it, since Tom is sick and not. So we hope that he'll be better soon. Be sure to check back later for Toxic Femininity. I haven't heard that there isn't a show tonight. So there should be Toxic Femininity. And also be sure to check in for more video drops that may drop at any time. So with that, it is time for, I need to find the clip here myself now. It's time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koalas